Hello. Everything should be up. All right, so we're going to start today with what I planned to actually do last week, but I wanted a little more time to work on it, and I was super excited about the golems last week from Minecraft. So what we're doing this week, it's going to take a little longer than my other sculptures, most likely. I am uncertain how well I'm going to be able to pull this off, but we are going to be doing an actually biblically accurate angel. Hopefully this goes well. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, just because I know this was like years ago. Several people started posting actually, biblically accurate angel art stuff. And some of them are amazing. Like some of them have done quite well. But a lot of them are really misnamed. They're not remotely biblically accurate. And I know probably just the artist doesn't know or didn't take the time, I guess, to look it up. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making one of the cherubim as described in Ezekiel chapter 1 and specifically named cherubim in Ezekiel chapter 10. It is probably one of the most descriptive passages in regards to angels, because most of the times that angels appear, they are not physically described. Or if they are only mildly described. They're not given a whole lot of detail. An important note, I put it in the description. Seraphim and cherubim, which are kind of the attributes that people draw on when they're doing the biblically accurate angels, because they're the only supernatural beings that are really fully and in-depth described, they aren't technically angels. They are in a sense and they aren't. The original word angel, both in the Greek, I don't recall what the Greek and Hebrew terms were, but it actually implies messenger or an envoy, a herald, somebody who's like delivering some sort of message or completing a specific job. And it's important to read it with that context, because the seraphim and the cherubim don't deliver messages. They're only ever depicted around like the throne of God in different ways. So in a sense, they're almost not even technically angels, but we've come to use the term angel just for any supernatural being in the Christian faith. So they're angels in modern day parlance, but in some sense, they are not messenger beings, if you will. So whenever you see the angels going, "Do not be afraid," they probably do not look like these guys. I don't think they're actually described in many of those cases. Sometimes they're mentioned looking like people or like glowing people. But yeah, they're not the massive, impressive, full of eyes creatures that we are working on today. But that's just interesting little caveat there, just so that you're aware of correct terminology. I went ahead and labeled it angels anyway, because it's one of those it kind of is, kind of isn't situations. But you will see in the passages, they are not called angels. They are called the four living creatures, and we'll see four other living creatures also in, I believe, Revelation and Isaiah. One of the most common things I noticed when people make angel type things that they call biblically accurate is that they often are doing only a small portion of the description, or they're blending the seraphim and the cherubim. So if you've seen, I think one of the most common ones I've seen is they'll do the wheel full of eyes, they'll make it furry, and they'll give it like 6 wings. That isn't remotely what it looks like. So the wheels are the ones, we're going to use these as the base for the intersecting wheels. They appear with the cherubim. The cherubim have only 4 wings. The wheels do not have wings. They are full of eyes, though. There are lots of eyes. We do have that. And the 6-winged only appears with beings we typically refer to as the seraphim, and they're always praising or doing some form of like heraldry praising and near the throne of God. They only appear twice in scripture, I believe. I'm trying to think, they may appear by name somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it's only in Isaiah and Revelation, and that is it. They are also called four living creatures, and they have a lot of similarities to the creature we're doing today, but They are different. They are different, and it's something I saw a lot of, is that when people would do these two types of beings, they would mix them together, or they would only do the interlocking wheels part, or they would do a single wheel, or they would give the wheel wings, or like, it was a lot of artistic license, which is, it's fine in a sense. I just got annoyed because they would call them biblically accurate, but they weren't remotely biblically accurate. Now, I have looked up and seen some really cool artwork that is far beyond anything I could do that actually did follow the descriptions. So there's some good ones out there. But because I'm a bit particular about accuracy, and I like doing religious stuff when I can, I wanted to attempt this. And I am already regretting it and concerned that I am not going to be able to pull this off. But we're going to be working on the cherubim. And one of the most notable features of the cherubim to me is the fact that they have 4 heads. I kept reading over it because, the seraphim don't, but they have the same faces. There's just 4 separate creatures with different faces. The cherubim have 4 heads, and it says each one had 4 heads, and it says it multiple times. So, seems pretty clear. Not even a translation potential error there. It's like, clearly, they have 4 heads. The heads that they have are the heads of an ox on the left side, a human in the middle, a lion on the right, and then it says an eagle. I'm assuming the eagle's in the back, humans in the front, but that's how most people depict it. Little iffy on that. That's the most notable thing I saw, and they have 4 wings. So, and the wings are mentioned as, there's a common theme with these beings that they cover themselves. So the cherubim have 4 wings. They have 2 that stick out, and they apparently fly or move with, and then they have 2 that they cover themselves. So we'll have a second pair of arms and wings wrapped around his body. All right. And the other thing that's super common with any supernatural beings in the Bible, both deity and just angels or otherwise, is fire. Gold, bronze, fire, yellow, lightning, gold, bronze, fire. Everything is fiery. All depictions of deity is fiery. All depictions of angels, very fiery. I believe I can actually read part of Ezekiel here when it introduces it. Yes, and verse 4 says, I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning, surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal. So I'm going to try to, 90% of this is going to be a bronzed, brass, gold color, because that's the colors it repeats multiple times. And the only other colors it gives are molten metal, fire, light. That's pretty much everything. So when we paint it, there aren't going to be that many color variations, interestingly enough. And in the midst of the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form is human, so I'm doing a humanoid shape. Alright, so they have a humanoid face, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. So again, we have that golden, coppery, fiery color with metal, which appears again and again. You'll see it in Revelation. You'll see it in most of the prophetic literature. Anything relating to glory or God or angelic beings is always fiery. I did see something that talked about the term cherubim being associated potentially with wisdom. I think there's some question on exactly what it means. That's something I need to do some more research on before I do my little voiceover for the edited version. Okay. All right, so they have straight legs. I'm assuming that was straight in contrast to like animal legs that have that curvature. I'm assuming that's why he mentioned straight legs. And he said humanoid, so we're going with humanoid legs with hooves at the base. And the wings there were 4 of them. And under their wings on their 4 sides, they had human hands. So I'm doing it a bit bat-like. There are going to be feathered wings, but we're going to have the hands sticking out here with the wings coming off of them. And then these that wrap around are going to be like arms wrapped around his body, but the wings kind of span around. That's how I'm understanding the hands under the wings thing. Because it literally means hand under or beneath its wings. That's the best I could find. I looked at some other references on translations, but I couldn't find much more help than that. And let's see, what else have we got? Yes, so there were 4 of them, and the wings touched. So I assumed that they were facing 4 sides. So you'd have one here, one here, one here, and one behind, and their wings, the tips of their wings touch each other, and they move straight ahead and in every direction. So they might head this direction, and they all go this way, they all go this way, they all go this way. In a sense, the cherubim are almost like chariot wheels. They're like humanoid bear, because they carry the throne. And you'll see that imagery again and again every time the cherubim come up. And they are mentioned more, I think, than any other being, I believe. Because I think seraphim are only mentioned like twice. The cherubim are mentioned again and again. In this depiction, at the very end of it, it talks about having God's glory above them. They are what was depicted on the ark, although the description of the ark doesn't mention much other than their wings. They're mentioned about 1 billion times in the tabernacle, as well as the temple description that Solomon built. Again and again, cherubs and cherubim are everywhere in anything relating to the throne of God. So they're kind of, in a sense, almost like the bearers of it. They carry it, and that's why they're on the ark as well, the Ark of the Covenant, on either side. Whether they always look like this or have other depictions, we don't really know. That's something we don't really have a lot of info on because they are not fully described anywhere, and we kind of have to guess. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just basing it off this one description. Could they potentially have other appearances? Who knows? Most of the temple descriptions I don't think actually mentioned too much detail about them, other than they always have multiple heads, I believe, and wings. And they're always associated with having some sense of like fire and cloud and sapphire and crystal above them, that there's typically a throne on. So they're like the carriers beneath the throne, which I think is kind of interesting that they have literal living wheels beside them, and they're almost like chariot wheels on the base of it. And you'll see psalms that also mention, God riding on the wings of the cherubim. So they're meant to be like the bearers of a throne, or the bearers of a deity or a king. And that can kind of give you, I guess, a little bit of perspective on what their role was and why they aren't called angels specifically. And why they're probably not the ones showing up telling people not to be afraid. Because they're doing a different job. I believe cherubim were also placed at the Garden of Eve after the fall. I think they were the ones who guarded or left it out, so they're also potentially guards. But like I said, do all cherubim look the same? We don't know. This is just one depiction that we have in Ezekiel. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to do... elbow here. The human body is not something I am terribly good at sculpting, so I'm going to do my best, but this is going to be a challenge. Like, if I don't get the proportions right, that's fine. I kind of almost don't want them to be perfectly human-like. I want them to look a little abnormal. But sculpting people is hard. Alright. Especially you gotta try to get the muscle groups correct, since I feel like this dude would have muscly arms. I may have to look up a reference for this, or I'm not going to get it correct. It's like elbow should be here. Hold on. How does your arm look when you hold it up? Okay. So shoulder cap here. Already did some of it, but we'll make it more defined. All right. So in this first chapter, they aren't actually called the cherubim. They're just mentioned as the 4 living creatures. He recognizes them as cherubim in chapter 10 when he mentions them again. The only noticeable difference between chapter 1 and chapter 10 is that he says the face of a cherub instead of the face of an ox when it comes to the different faces. So it's kind of interesting if cherubs and cherubim are not quite the same thing, and the idea that cherubs may have been somewhat bovine in appearance because he uses both terms to describe the left head. So that was some interesting stuff that people were talking about, because we don't actually know fully what depictions of cherubs look like. Modern, like, Renaissance stuff got really into, I think they combined it with, like, Cupid or something, and that's why we have the little cherub babies thing. But that's not really that was a invention of the Renaissance. That was not Hebrew religion at all. It was a westernization of things. I say westernization, but I think it came from Greek mythology, so I'm not really sure. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap his waist here. Oh. And we're probably going to have to add some additional layers of clay to achieve the proper look. We'll have to do shoulder blades as well. Now, I feel like the shoulders would probably be pretty large just because he's got 4 heads, and you'd have to support those somehow. All right, let's do another layer here. And if they're carrying the throne, I feel like they would be fairly strong, or at least appear fairly strong. Also, note about the eyes. So we're going to do the eyeballs everywhere. They aren't mentioned specifically exactly how they are placed, except for they're on the hands, legs, body, back, basically everywhere. So I'm going to do the best I can, but the other issue I have is I don't have enough glass eyes that are all the same color. So I'm going to sculpt them, and we're going to paint them. They won't look quite as realistic as if I had had that many glass eyes. I am a little financially strapped, so I can't just go and buy a whole bunch more. And I didn't really want them to be different colors. I felt like that would be incohesive to the sculpture. It would look weird, in my opinion, if they were all different colors. So we are going to paint in them, and I will probably use... paint them with like either a clear coat or something to make them shiny so they look like eyeballs. So we're going to just do, I'm just going to sculpt those. Okay. Now most of his lower half is going to be covered by wings because we're going to have the wings folded folded around his body, since he covers his body with his wings. 2 of them at least. An interesting note about the wheels. So we haven't really done the wheels yet, but I want to talk about them a little bit. So the wheels are sometimes, I saw some people calling them the onaphim. I'm not sure quite where that term came from. I don't think it was in the passage. I'd have to look at the Hebrew again. I don't think it was. I have to look at the little reference guide I have for the original languages. But the thing is, they don't appear like to be separate creatures from the cherubim, because it specifically says in chapter 1 that the wheels follow the cherubim, and that the spirit of the creatures was in the wheels, or the soul of the creatures was in the wheels. So it appears that the wheels are part of them, and it says that they were on the ground beside them, and when they go up, they move up. When they go to the left, they move left, and none of these ever turn. They never turn around. They always stand the same direction. And there's one on each. So if you think about it, there's 4, so there's one on each side. When they head north, they all go this direction. They all go this way. They're very much like wheels on the base of a chariot or a cart. And which I think is kind of the imagery a little bit. But the wheels aren't ever depicted as separate beings, although they are kind of mentioned after the fact. So like we describe these guys, and then we describe the wheels. So they're almost like separate parts, but they are always depicted in tandem with the cherubim. And I say always, they're only depicted in one passage, which is this one. Yeah. I think the way back dimples work. Not too much description is given about the body other than it is the likeness of a man, so we're going with that. So it is vaguely humanoid. Let's see. So if we have just here, let's. All right. All right. Trying to get. add a little bit of a bicep here. I'll have to pull up some references here in a second just so I know I'm doing the anatomy of the muscles correctly. Because I'm not real great at that. His one arm's looking a little weak comparatively. Make it a little more muscly. I think we're going to put an eyeball right here too in the center of his chest because I think that'll look kind of cool. Now I should probably go ahead and start part of one of at least the base of the neck and the head here before I get too into doing the body details. So the head is part of what scares me because I'm not great at doing people heads. All right. people head shaped like this, kind of. Jaw. I tend to give people really tiny foreheads. That's one of the mistakes I frequently make. Alright. Let me... Okay, let's chop this a tad shorter. Alright, so always start the eyes lower than I think because I always mess that up. Let's go ahead and wrap the neck here real quick. Looks like an alien right now. Okay. Let's go ahead and give him a nose. One of the issues I have is that my people always look a bit derpy, so I'm trying to not do that with him. We're getting there. I'm actually doing okay. But I'm always worried that I'm gonna make the head look derpy. That is what I constantly accidentally do. Alright, I'm gonna do the lips and the eyelids here. It doesn't mention additional eyes on their heads, so I'm going to assume that they have a normal number of eyes on their heads. Just mentions their bodies being full of eyes, so as always with stuff like this, there's always going to be a little bit of artistic license, just because the description is not complete, full and complete. You can see our head that we've got going here. Okay, we gotta do eyelids now. No, it says the head of a man, but it doesn't mention if he has, like, facial hair at all. So I have no idea on that. I feel like I've exaggerated the nose too much. It needs to be a little smaller. I feel like when you're playing those games like Sims and you make them from a character from one side and you're like, yeah, that looks pretty good. And then you look at from the left and you're like, nope, I messed that up. I feel like that's what I just did with the nose. So I wanted him to have a very prominent, sharp nose, but... Alright. Eyebrows. Alright. Let's see where we're going with the head here. Oops. Now, I intend to do some hair on this guy, so he's not going to be hairless. Going to have hair. And I'm thinking I might give him a little bit of a beard, too. Alright, he has ears now. Hello. Oops, I didn't mean to drop that. Do some texture on the eyebrows. Alright. Almost reluctant to cover the chin because I shaped it so nicely. Alright, so I'm going to do some sideburns here and then we'll leave the rest of the hair for later. This is the face of the man so far. I mean, I also was thinking about the fact that, you know, Should I do it masculine? I assumed since it's the face of a man, and angels typically referred to in the masculine, that's the thing here. But it's like, well, would he be clean shaven? Would he? I don't know. It doesn't really say. So I'm just giving him a beard because, I don't know, I felt like it. And I have artistic license on this part, and it doesn't really say exactly what the face appeared like other than it was humanoid. So we're going with a beard. Partially because I kind of enjoy making beards, but no, when I was looking this up, I did see something. I think it's called the tetramorph, or the tetra something. Anyway, there's a name for it because a lot of people in this see a lot of symbolism. So, for example, the fact that the throne is being carried around by something with four heads: the face of a man, the face of an eagle, the face of an ox, and the face of a lion. Many people see that as symbolism for like the expanse of the kingdom of God, or his rule over humanity, domesticated animals, birds, the air, and over wild animals like the lion. But some people also think it could potentially be symbolic of the writers of the New Testament, or potentially the tribes, a whole bunch of stuff. Because one thing about a lot of these descriptions in the Bible is that they are very symbolic. Whether, sometimes it can be hard to tell, how much is meant to be symbolism in the visions and how much is meant to be actual physical beings. These are repeated in places and locations quite often, so they're often assumed to be physical beings, but a lot of them have symbolism steeped in it. So it's like, yeah, make him look kind of like typical guy who would have facial hair. I don't know if that logic makes sense, but that's what I'm going with. Now, should the head probably be a lot bigger? Maybe, but we got 3 heads to go, so. Alright, I need another wire. So we gotta do the head of a lion. Alright. Oh, there's my scissors. Don't want to knock his head off. That would be bad. Okay. Head of a man. Now we gotta do the head of a lion. I'm gonna have to pull up reference photos for this. I don't trust myself to do the head of a lion. And I want to double check the head of a lion is on the right side. Yes, the head of a lion is on the right side. And he was facing it, so I'm assuming it was Ezekiel's right and not the creature's right. I could be wrong, but I am going with it this way. And I think most illustrations assume that as well, that we're talking from Ezekiel's perspective on the right. Okay. Head of a lion. Lion's head. Apparently that's also the name of a place. Okay. Alright. Okay, now let me look here. So, yeah, I anticipated that this one was going to take me a while. Like, say, I'm already at an hour, and we're nowhere near done. So, I think the animal heads will give me less trouble than the human one. I think, but I don't know about this lion. Okay, so this goes up kind of like this. And this, like this. And the lion's eyes need to be about right here. Okay. Can do this. Yeah, I think when I was looking at everything I was going to have to sculpt, I was starting to psych myself out about it. Because I get worried that I'm not going to be able to pull it off. That's the one stressful thing about recording these live. Like, even though no one's necessarily watching it very much, or very few people do, so I can usually hide it if I screwed up too bad. I haven't had to do that. I only did it, I think, on once, but that was kind of not my, well, it was my fault, but it wasn't a sculpting issue. It was more of a figurine didn't want to stand up kind of issue. It kept breaking. So it looks like the lion always has an indent on the middle of its forehead, like so. Almost like human eyebrow kind of pattern. Like this. Okay. And then... Alright, now we gotta do the rest of the neck here, and we'll just cover it in a mane. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the eyes real quick here. Okay, and then we'll do quick eyelids, kind of across and angled up. Oops, didn't mean to hit my phone here. So you can see the head that we got going for the lion. Alright, now we've got to do the mane. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna try the, doing multiple curls of things like this. Sometimes I do like a flat piece and then I texture it. Other times I try to do this. Neither of them work perfectly. So I should probably do a quick thing for the ears because the ears need to go here. Hmm. Yeah, I think this isn't going to work too well for the style, so I think I'm going to do a mix of the ways that I do here at least. It works on like horses and things, but for a lion's mane, it's just so fuzzy. I don't think this is a good approach. Let me fix that ear. I messed up the ear that I was doing. There we go. Alright, so we've almost got our line set done. Okay. I think I do need to add some more to the mane here, though. Because it'll need to wrap around the base, I think, of the other heads as well. Okay, we gotta do a quick thing here. Wrap the lion's head in more of a mane to make it look better. Alright, so we have the man, the lion. Okay. I'm just adding some additional hair pieces to make his head look attached. Here. Should we give the man some hair? I don't know if I want him to be bald. Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone with my arm. Gotten into my extremely focused mode where I'm not really paying attention to anything other than what I'm sculpting. Okay, let us put this here. Kind of. Alright, so we gave the man some hair. Got the lion. Let's go ahead and wrap a couple strands of hair from the lion's mane on this side, just so that when we add the other heads, we don't have to mess with this. Because the more heads on here, the harder this is going to be to work with. Okay. Lion's head is done. All right. Let's flex my shoulders a bit. Getting sore. Okay. Now we must do the ox head. All right. Yeah, so like the guy's head looked a little tiny at first, but you can kind of see with the amount of heads that we got to get on here, why I did that. Because it's looking less tiny. Now that we have a bunch of other heads on here. Okay. So we gotta do the ox head next. Okay. Okay. Oh, getting sleepy. Like I said, this one's going to take a long time. I might take a break and grab a snack after another hour or two. But we'll see. Once we get the heads on better, I'll work on the arms a bit. Because we still have to do the bane of my existence, which is wings. I dislike doing wings. They are a pain. Alright. Let us work on the oxen now. Oxen. Okay. And they have big old noses. And then it kind of curves in around their big old noses. And then their heads are much larger. Ox head is looking maybe a little too big. Let's see. Yeah, maybe not. I think we'll be fine. Don't want his head to be too much bigger than the lion over there. The eagle, I think I will face backward. So we'll probably attach that head last, just because it's going to be hard to keep it protected with all that we got going on. Okay. Okay, and then they have angular noses, like so, and like so. And then we got little pinpoints here where the eyes, and then the eyes go. The eyes go right about here and here. We're gonna all right. All right. Getting ahead of our oxen here. Oh, looks like they have a little tuft of hair typically right about here on the middle of their heads. Kind of cute. The ones I'm looking at have giant noses. That's why I did the nose like this. Maybe a little too wide. Maybe we'll move it back just a tad. I got little tufts of hair right there. And then their giant tusks, or horns. I can't think today. They don't have tusks. Their horns stick out from here. Now this is the one that was slightly different in chapter 10. It said the face of a cherub instead of the face of an ox. But a lot of people, we don't know what all the depictions of the cherub were like. So we think that whatever a cherub was, it may have been bovine in appearance. Because these are the cherubim, and I don't actually know if cherubs and cherubim are the same thing. They are mentioned in conjunction with each other. I often see people mentioning them as the same, but it would be weird to describe the cherubim with the face of a cherub if it was the same thing. Okay, let's do his big horns. May have to make the horns a tiny bit smaller than they would normally be, just because, well, he looks too happy. Their faces sag a bit. They gotta, there we go. And then it looks like they also have these indentions right here that like come down. And here. Okay. All right. Give them horns. Attach the horns real quick here. Okay, this one's a little bigger than the other. Didn't mean to do that. Alright. We gotta add additional fur tufts, because that's kind of what covers up the middle of the horns. his bits of hair and fur and stuff. And we gotta do the big ol' ears. I think cow ears are so cute. Alright, so we got our main part of our oxen's head here. Alright. Now we got to do some more on the neck of this guy, and then we'll attach him with the others. Not the cow's ear. Alright, so we have 3 of the heads done. Okay. This is also a tough one because it's almost like 2 figurines in one, you know? Because I have to make these guys, and then I also have to make the wheel. Which, the wheel should be considerably easier. But, still, time consuming. Smooth out all this before I lose access to it by nature of adding another head. Oh. His legs are going to be longer, by the way. And part of what I plan on doing is I plan on using the wheel on the ground to prop him up. So I'm going to attach it to him in some way. Else this boy ain't going to stand up. Not at all. The last head is that of an eagle, but it goes on the back, and I am reluctant to do... Well, hold on. Okay, I can probably do the head of the eagle. I just have to, like, lay him down like this. And then we'll be okay. Alright, we can do this. And then we'll have to do the second set of arms under, thinking right here, and then wrap them around the body, so kind of like this, and then around like that. So these upper legs won't have to be too detailed, so you're not going to see most of the detail that I just put here. So, yeah. All right, last head. Let's go ahead and do the last head, and then we'll work a bit on the shoulders, add the hands, and start doing the wings, which, well, I guess I could do the legs first. Although I'm not... What? Okay. And I think the eagles in the Middle East are typically brownish in color. Because I know in America we usually think of the bald eagle, but that's not what they would have there, so. Alright. Fourth head. Well, we're going on 2 hours now. Let me pull up reference photos here of an eagle. Okay. Okay. At least the eagle's head design's a little easier than the rest of this. Alright. So it looks like the eyes are here, here, and that they have this sort of ridge shape there, there. Okay, and then the nose is actually right there. And right... Oh, whoops, I did it backwards. Let me see here. And then they have the mouth that comes like all the way back here. And then this is very deep eyeballs. Very deep eyeballs. And this is flatter. Alright, I think we're getting the shape of an eagle head there. Let's put the eyeballs in there. That is too big of an eyeball. There we go. Head of an eagle. Let's give it a slightly longer neck here so that we have some attachment points. And then I'm gonna texture it a little. All right, so we have wings in the back. Or sorry, eagle head in the back. Ox head on the left, lion head on the right. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I need to do some shoulder blades. That's way too much. I'm so used to doing like emaciated things for some reason that I want to make it way too highlighted. But yeah, don't need to do that. Just do a faint, thin little addition. We'll blend it in real well. Okay. Okay. So I think, with healthy people, you can usually see like a ridge here. I can do this. But it's not defined. So we're going to do a long, thin. I don't know if I have the ability to do back muscles. That may be a bit beyond me. All right. All right. Oh. Getting there. Slowly but surely. Right, now the question is, what should I do next? Should I finish the legs, maybe? That would probably be the wise thing to do. All right, let me look up calves' hooves real quick. Okay, so they're like this, but a very, very thick indentation right there. Yeah, and when we do the wheels, I'm trying to think of how this is going to work, but when we do the wheels, I think I'll put the wheels right here, because that should help balance the statue a bit. So almost like a tiny bits of fur here. It doesn't say that, but it doesn't really give us too much descriptions of the specifics on the legs. So, other than they're straight and they have hooves. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, we're doing the second hoof here. All right, we've got the legs now. I'll probably do some fine tuning a bit on these legs, but they are good enough for now. Okay. Oh. Oh. I feel like I should go ahead and do some of the eyes on the body. Because it may become increasingly difficult to do so the more details that we keep adding to this guy. So. Okay, now let us add some eyeballs here and here. Okay. It's unlikely with the way the wings are going to wrap around that you'll see anything lower than these. But I think we can do maybe another one here. Yeah, let's do another larger one right about here. Well, we got some eyeballs on him now. Oh, I should probably add the hands and wings and begin doing that, and then we'll do the ones that wrap around. But maybe I should go ahead and add a little eyeball right here. A little eyeball right about there. Part of my goal is to make him full of eyes, but not like in an obnoxious way. Because I think a lot of them just like pepper them with so many eyes that the form is invisible. Because if you look at it, the eyes are not the first thing he mentions. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even mention the eyes on the body the first time. So I don't think they're quite as... They're there and they're noticeable, but I don't think they're quite as outlandishly covered in eyes as some portrayals I have seen. Or perhaps the eyes were closed on the first time you saw them. Because he mentions the eyes on the wheels several times. But the eyes on the figures themselves, he only mentions in the second depiction of them. I think there's another one where he mentions two ads, and apparently it's because it was seen from a side view, from the angle it was being viewed. So, I think it was one of those type of scenarios. Alright, so we got him some more eyes on his shoulder blades. I just thought of something funny. It'd be great if, for Christmas I put this on top of my tree. You said to decorate it with an angel. I mean, even though we went over the fact that these aren't technically angels, they are, by modern language, they are angels. By prior use of the word, they are not. Since this is the only kind of angel I'm going to top my tree with now. Only the cherubim. Alright. Oh. So I think I'll do another eye right in the elbow. And then we're going to start adding the hands. And the main wings. Not too much there. The only thing that's not mentioned as being full of eyes is their heads. So I assume their heads have the normal amount of eyes. Because he says their whole bodies are full of eyes, but he specifically states legs and legs, wings. Hold on. Let me look at Ezekiel 10 again. Their bodies, their backs, their hands, and their wings, he specifically mentions. I did see a couple really good, like, digital drawing depictions of these, that I did like. They were pretty cool. Well, like I'd said before, sometimes people don't even seem to try on the accuracy part, but there's a couple where people really did a great job. Far better than what I could do. And I was pretty impressed. So there's some good ones out there. I just was annoyed that the vast majority that I had seen were not. They were good artwork, but they weren't accurate. And we haven't even gotten to the wheels yet. Oh. We'll do the eyes on the back later. Oh, we got some eyes on his arms now. Oh. Alright. Okay, we're gonna do the hands. And then I gotta figure out the best way to do these wings. Because wings are a pain. Let's see, I want to make this really small and thin because I'm going to have the hands here and then I'm going to have the wings extend past the hands. And their hands have eyes, so we got to put eye on the middle of the, I'm going to put eyes on the palms of their hands. Not sure if that was what was intended, but I think that'll work artistically quite well. But yeah, I don't want to do too much with the lower body yet because it's my anchor to hold on to. And if I do details, I'm just gonna smash them out one as I work. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do indentation, center of hand. That's fine. And then if your hand's thumbs upward, okay. So thumb would be upward and more close. Okay. Let us lay him down, and then I'm going to make the fingers real quick here. And we'll add them to the back. Okay, that's about the right size. Okay. They're a little small, but It'd be fine. And it needs to come through the wire here because the wings have to go around the back. So all right. Now we got to do the hand eyeball. Back of the hand, less important because it's going to get completely covered by the wings when we add those. So now we have one hand with an eyeball in the middle. We should probably do another little eyeball right here on the forearm. We're on 3 hours. And we haven't even started our other figurine. Okay. If it goes for too long, I may take a break a bit and do a second video in a few hours, or because I do have a couple things I need to check on. But I think those can wait, so we should be okay. Okay, now let's see if we can copy that hand design to the other side. Oh. Hopefully. Hopefully. And the first wings we will just attach to the back and wrap around his body. The second ones will be the back of these hands extended. So oh. Nope, that's not enough clay. Or the thumb. Okay. Starting the other thumb. There we go. Now we gotta do the fingers real quick here. Then we will add the eyeball. Oh, then we gotta add an eyeball right in the middle of the forearm. There. Sorry, I'm getting tired and I'm starting to make voices. Because that's what I do when I'm tired. I speak funny. Anyway. Ooh. Now we got to make the fingers. Gotta lay him down a bit. Okay, he's safe. Too long. And this time I'm going to be smart and I attached it to the front of the wire instead of the back of the wire so that I could avoid the pushing it through the wire part. So that was a bit unnecessary on my part. Didn't plan that well. Alright, now I got to do the eyeball in the middle of the hand. And also our other little eyeball that's right here. I need to make it a little bigger. It's not comparable to the other hand. Oh. I feel like the hardest thing with this guy is just holding him still to work on stuff. It's making this needlessly difficult. Okay. Where did my little teeny... There we go. Alright, now we gotta do the eyelids for the other forearm eyeball. Real quick here. I will say that most of the difficult stuff, aside from the wings, is done, so I feel a little better. A little more confident. Because I was very concerned I was not going to be able to do the heads correctly. Like, there's still obviously a lot that I could improve, but it's much better than I was anticipating. Alright. We got our hands on now. Mostly. And, alright. This is what the back currently looks like. He may also need to be attached to a base just to secure him, so I may end up making a base for him because he is quite wobbly. Like, I can attach the wheel to this side since he's going to tilt to this side. I can attach the wheel to this side, but it's likely I will also have to do a base, which is fine. Oh. Alright, now I got to do the wings. So I think we'll do the wings that wrap around his body first. Then we'll do the larger wings, and then all I have left to do... Well, then we'll wait on the larger wings till I do the eyes on the legs in the back. I want to go ahead and get an idea of how much of the body you can actually see with the way I'm going to do this. because that'll determine how many eyeballs I need to make on his body. Because I don't want to do all this detail around his belly and his stomach and then just not be able to see any of it. So my thought is like this, up shoulders, around, and then around his body. So a little bit longer. Let me see. Yeah. And we'll try to bend it a bit like an arm. Yeah, it's shapes here. And then we'll cut the rough wing shape out after I smash some clay together. I may need to do a wire armature just for the shape so that we don't lose too much of it. Because I think the clay may not hold up on its own. But we shall experiment, we shall see. Trying to see if I can use my cheating method of making wings, because I really don't want to do each of individual feathers. Yeah, I can do that. That'll work. You just gotta really drag it so you're bringing the clay with you. Or it won't look right. And then I just gotta dish real quick here. Okay, I do want to do a slightly thicker attachment point just so that we can make it look correctly like there's an arm for this wing, and then we need to make a second one, same size, roughly same shape. And we can wrap them around from the other angle. Okay, and then just do a quick that. That, and then we'll lay this one on top. Make it a tad smaller than it is, because when we do the patterns, it's going to get a little bigger because we'll be dragging the clay. Dragging the clay across. Just cut more of that off. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this wings pattern real quick. So it looks like what I did before. Start with the lower ones. Okay. All right, and then now we're gonna take this and yeah. All right. Alright, and then we need an arm just to make it fold properly. Yeah, because I'm also going to be doing something like this for the wings up here. They're going to be a little bit shorter perhaps, but similar in shape and size otherwise. So I'm going to do a quick fake arm here, and then we should be able to attach the wings around the body. Trying to think if I should do... I feel like I should do a wire just a little bit to make it easy to work with and bend, kind of like an arm. Okay, so we're gonna cover this. Now I am gonna have to take a break here as soon as I get these wings attached. I'm gonna take a break here. It's gonna probably be like 40 minutes or more, maybe about an hour, and then I will come back and finish the sculpting up. But I do have to go check on my friend's cats, so. Okay. So we can do the attachment point here. Okay. But then here, I'm thinking right about here, we should hide a round thing here that looks kind of like a fist or a hand. Alright, so this we're going to attach right here, bend it around the body, and then do this. A little looser, not quite that. Okay. Okay. Let's grab some more clay here and do another arm-ish thing. And this one the other way around. And this is because the description said that they had 2 wings covering their body, so that's kind of how I'm interpreting it here in this way. So yes, it needs to be angled this way. Okay, so then attachment point right here on the shoulder blade. Okay, and then we're going to bend and wrap around just like we did with the other one. Okay. Okay, now let's attach the back here. All right. So we've gotten that so far. gonna go ahead and do an eyeball right about. I'm smashing the front of them. I didn't mean to do that. Right about here in the center of the back. And then we'll do the eyelids. Okay, so we have an eyeball right there. We're not going to do the backs of the shoulders and arms yet because I got to figure out where the wings are attaching first before we do that. But I do think we should do 2 more eyeballs about here and here. Where's a nice flat spot? Okay, I can press right there. Where's my little eyeball thingy? No, it also says that their wings have eyeballs, so I gotta figure out how I'm doing that. Probably gonna do it along the top, I think. Would be the safest bet to do. Okay, I think we'll do eyeball here and eyeball here. And then another larger eyeball here and there. Okay, so we can get what's here, what's here. Alright. We add eyeballs to the wings. Some eyeballs on the back. We will do more on the larger wings. For now, I want to... Okay, we're going to add 2 eyeballs right below the knees real quick here. Here. And also here. And then some ones, I think, on the backs of the legs. And then I will have to take a quick break for about an hour, and then I will come back and finish this. I mean, I guess I could technically leave OBS up and just... But I'd rather not. I'd rather not leave it on AFK for like an hour. I prefer not doing that. So I will just make a secondary video. Oh. I'm getting lazy. I'm starting to cheat with the eyelids. I just don't feel like making more eyeballs. And I still got to do the eyeballs for the wheel because it's covered in eyeballs too. All right, 2 more eyeballs on the legs. And in it. And then do it on the side of the calves here. I think that's as good a spot as any. Maybe a little one on the back of the knees. Do that real quick here. All right. All right. So we have, so far, we have this. We got eyeballs on the legs. We got the wings wrapped around. We got this on the back. Like so. And we got eyeballs on the legs. So now that we have accomplished that, I am going to end this particular video And then I'm going to start a wait timer for a new one. Because when I come back, I do want to finish this tonight. So I will come back in like an hour. I just have to do some stuff real fast. Then we will add, the final touch will be the wings on the arms. And then we will, from there, sorry, I got distracted. So once we do that, the final touches will be adding the wings to the arms. Then this part will be done, and then we will do the wheels, which shouldn't take as long since their design is a lot simpler. But I'm gonna gently lay him down like so, so that he is safe for now. But if you watch this, I greatly appreciate it. I will be taking a break for about an hour, and then I will start the next parts of this. But I think it's coming along pretty well at the moment, so I'm getting very tired. So yeah, I think this one's going to be closer to a 5 or 6 hour sculpture. So I think we probably have another good 2.5 hours before I'm done. So I will hopefully be back in a little bit with the second video, and then next week we will be painting it. So I greatly appreciate anyone who sees this, and check out for the second video, which will be coming in a little bit, or if you're seeing this later, would already be posted. But I will be back.